Those of you who've done any of my Dating Essentials for Men work, listened to any of my podcasts, I ended every one with get out of the house, expand your route, linger in public, talk to the people you meet, test for interest, and then walk through the open doors. That was a hero's journey for most men. I frame that becoming a social animal, and that's where we experience miracles. Miracles happen around people. Unless you've got a room full of people, a living room, a house full of people, an apartment full of people, you're not going to have any miracles unless you get out of the house. Welcome everybody. Good to see you guys. I'm excited for this call. I had a breakthrough, an aha, a revelation last night. And other than my wife Lupita, you guys are going to be the first people to hear about that aha. Well, what that was about. And the aha is that without really realizing it, for the last 8 to 9 years, I've been living inside a voluntary house arrest. All right, so let me tell you what I'm talking about there. It's really cool that I got this awareness because I've been planning these series of lessons on freedom for a few months now. And I've planned ahead. We're on lesson number 9, and we're probably going to have 12. I don't know. I may have added a 13th lesson based on some thoughts and awarenesses I got after talking to a client yesterday. But so I knew what the basic idea in this lesson I wanted to talk about in terms of freedom. But I knew I was going to wind in the, weave in the hero's journey. I knew I wanted to talk about just some dynamics of getting out and experiencing life. And when I got this aha last night that I've been living under house arrest, it was like, boom, that's the hook. That's the hook for this lesson. And so I'll tell you what I mean by that. Last night, I had a phone call with my nutrition coach, and I've been working with her for about a year now and made just great progress on nutrition aspects. She's actually become kind of my training coach, a life coach, my world impact coach, my spiritual guru. She's become a lot of things beyond just helping me count macros. And by the way, you guys will get to meet her in July. She's coming on a Brotherhood call as a guest. Um, and just to throw this out, just to kind of get you guys, putting it on your calendar, she is a former champion bikini model, in addition to being a nutrition coach and having a master's degree in gerontology. So I'm looking forward to getting to introduce my coach to you guys. All right, so we're having a call last night. And it'd been a long day. I had a lot of calls yesterday and we're on the phone. I just thought the call would go 10, 15 minutes because often what they do. And we talked for over an hour. And the thing that we came to is that, even though I've nailed the nutrition part, I'm eating well, I'm in good shape, and I walk every day, really have not been getting into the gym with any regularity. And the paradox of this is I've got a gym in my house. I mean, there's no excuse. My wife's a gym rat. She leaves and goes to another gym every day for an hour or two. So it's not like, I can't make the time or it's inconvenient. And so I was talking with my coach about that, saying, I don't know, it seems like a psychological block. And just a couple of days ago, I'd gotten into the gym. I couldn't work out for a few days because I got a tooth pulled, so I wasn't supposed to be getting my heart rate up. And went in and did some arms and then woke up yesterday morning and felt good because my arms hurt. I thought, yeah, I like that. So as I was talking to my coach, I said, here's the thing. I said, before I moved into this house, and I bought it coming up on 9 years ago in July, and Lupita and I moved in, got married a few months later. Prior to that, I'd lived in part of Old Town here in Vallarta, where I lived in a condo, didn't have a car. I walked everywhere. I'd go to restaurants. I'd go to the beach. I'd walk to the gym and work out. I'd walk to a Starbucks and work there. I'd hang out with friends. I had a very mobile life, and I was out quite a bit. And then before that, when I was in Seattle, people called Starbucks my office. I'd be in 2 or 3 Starbucks a day working. I'd go to the gym. And I thought nothing of getting in my car, or if I was lived close enough, walking to the gym, working out for, 45 minutes to an hour. So, my gym, it's going to be hour and a half, 2 hours a day by the time you go, work out, shower, maybe do a sauna, drive home. It seemed like I had a lot more time and a lot more flexibility, a lot more just, freedom. And as I got to talking to my coach, it really hit me that this shifted when I moved into this house here in Puerto Vallarta. And what I realized is that in a sense, there were trade-offs, right? We've been talking about the trade-offs of freedom. The quote at the beginning of this call, the inside joke about freedom is that you're always trading obedience to one thing for obedience to another. That's from a book called Freedom by Sebastian Junger. He also wrote The Perfect Storm and another book I really like called Tribes. In fact, he's somebody else I'd love to get on a call and interview. And that I'll tell you more about that book in a minute, about the Freedom book by Sebastian Junger. But there have been trade-offs. Since I've lived in this house, I've built out this office. This used to just be a big white room. No air conditioning, no color, no furnishings, no carpets, no computers, no multi-computer screens with LED lights, with boom mics and preamps and couches and chairs and this office is just. I mean, I could spend day and night in here, and I kind of do at times. And like I said, even with the gym right around the corner, I just walk out, go past the bathroom, and there's my gym. What happened is I've become not really a recluse, but I just haven't had a lot of reason to leave my house a lot. COVID came along, and I said during COVID, my life didn't really change. I still worked from home, was still on Zoom all the time, could just go to the gym here. I go out back to my swimming pool. I love being in my house. And Lupita does most of our shopping, and since we live here, she cooks a lot of the time, so we don't eat out as much. So it's a little bit now. It's a little bit of a drive to get to the beach rather than just walking. Now the trade-offs have been since I've lived in this house, I've accomplished a lot. I've written three books since moving into this house. I created my online on-demand video courses, launched Integration Nation, along with several other programs. Done a shitload of interviews over the last couple of years, had workshops here in my home. So the trade-offs have been beneficial. But as we've talked about, the paradoxes of freedom is that that trade-off, as Sebastian Junger would say, my obedience to my productivity, so to speak, and maybe just the ease that I can be productive because I can just drop into my office anytime that I want and I have everything I need here to be productive. And having my wife go do most of our shopping and do a lot of the cooking and take care of errands. And it's like, well, the trade-off was I'm not getting out and walking to the beach. I don't take an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours out of my day to go to the gym. I'm not hanging out with friends because I don't really have much friends since I moved to this part of town. So there's been trade-offs, and that's always going to be the case. But what has happened, I think I've rewired my nervous system to mainly work a lot. Just be here. And so if I'm not working or being productive, there's this anxiety in my nervous system that says, well, you can't take an hour and a half or 2 hours out of your day just to walk to the gym, get your workout in, walk home, take a shower, and then get to work. Well, you can't go to the beach 2 or 3 afternoons a week. Well, you don't have that many evenings that you can just go out and have meals with buddies. Well, you can't, because I got work to do. Again, it's a trade-off. And again, freedom's always going to have those trade-offs. I've been very productive. And I was sharing this with my wife this morning while we were walking the dog, which is something I do every morning. I take time for that. And she goes, that's true. She says, you like stare at a computer a lot. You're working a lot. And she agreed that I need to build this slow my life down. Don't spend so many hours on Zoom or even in my office. Build in more time, but mainly rewire my nervous system that she and I can walk with her to the gym in the morning. and come back. We can have time to have coffee together. We can take the dog for a walk. We can take an afternoon or two a week and go to the beach together. Now, I do get when I travel, I do get a lot of freedom and flexibility there. That's when I built a lot of it in. So it's not black and white. But I do know my nervous system right now is more comfortable being under house arrest, being in front of my computer, getting work done. But I want to take more time to write because I have more things I want to put in the world. I want to have more time to go to the gym, spend time with my wife. And so what I've come to the realization is that I got to take my own advice that I gave to my dating essentials for men guys for years and go live a hero's journey. I've got to consciously look at getting out of the house because that's basically what a hero's journey is, getting out of the house and having an adventure. As I said, to me, this is just a beautiful context for the hero's journey. And I'm not, most of us have heard about the hero's journey, so I'm not going to just spend a lot of time breaking it all down. But basically, the hero's journey is the structure of all myth, of pretty much every fiction story ever written. It's the structure of the Christ story. It's the structure of pretty much every movie that we've ever liked. I mean, if you guys love Star Wars, that's just the hero's journey right there, over and over and over again. So the hero's journey is a part of our masculinity, a part of our masculine initiation, a part of us living free. Now, there's several components to the hero's journey. I'm just going to touch on them briefly. First of all, there's that call to adventure. The hero is invited to leave the ordinary world, to leave home, to leave the familiar, to leave what he knows. And as we've already talked about, that's scary, right? We like the security of home. We like the security of the known. So he's called to go into another world that he doesn't know. He doesn't know what's out there. And that's what we're being called to do, to get out of the house and get out there into the unknown world. We don't know what's coming. We don't know what's going to happen. Like one of my mantras, I love waking up in the morning, not knowing how my day is going to end. But I got to get out of the house for that to truly happen. Okay. Another part of the hero's journey is the mentor. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Yoda, the Holy Spirit. The mentor is the guide that helps the hero prepare for the journey. He doesn't go it alone, right? He's got a support system as he goes on that hero's journey. He crosses a threshold, he leaves the familiar world behind and goes into this new world of the unknown, the unexpected, the unplanned, the not knowing what might be. He doesn't know Cyclops is coming. He doesn't know the sirens are coming. He doesn't know that pissed off goddesses are going to make his life difficult. He doesn't know that. And then there's the challenges and temptations. The hero faces trials and learns about himself, learns what strength he has, learns what abilities he has, learns what he can endure, what he can get comfortable being uncomfortable with. And that's all part of that learning about themselves. And then there's the abyss. The hero faces a major obstacle or enemy, the true test that he has to conquer and overcome. And in the midst of that is the transformation. The hero's changed by that experience, and then there's the return. He returns to his people. He returns to his homeland. He returns to the ordinary world with a new gift and a new wisdom. So that's the beauty of this hero's journey, is that we're being called to go out, get out of the comfort, get out of the security, get out of the known, and go out into the unknown, where we're going to face unknown challenges. But again, we don't do it alone. We do it with a mentor, with a coach, with a guide, with a team, with Integration Nation, right? That's why I built this place, is to give us community to go on our heroes' journeys together. And, as I was working on this lesson, it dawned on me that the mantra that I ended every Dating Essentials for Men podcast with, that I recorded for several years, was a hero's journey mantra. It didn't even dawn on me until I really started putting all those pieces together for this lesson. Those of you who've done any of my Dating Essentials for Men work, listened to any of my podcasts, I ended every one with get out of the house, expand your route, linger in public, talk to the people you meet, test for interest, and then walk through the open doors. Now, that was a hero's journey for most men. I frame that becoming a social animal, and that's where we experience miracles. I always would say in these courses, miracles happen around people. Unless you've got a room full of people, a living room, a house full of people, an apartment full of people, you're not going to have any miracles unless you get out of the house. And I always taught, and I lived this way, especially when I was single. Every time I walked out my front door, I walked out expecting a miracle. I walked out expecting a miracle. Again, beginning my day, not knowing how my day is going to end. That's the true hero's journey. That's the true adventure. And because I preached this to single men, because most of the men I worked with didn't do these things. They were not on any kind of hero's journey. They rarely left their house. If they could be, they were home 24/7, kind of like I've been for the last few years. They had the same route all the time. If they went anywhere, it was the same places day after day. They didn't linger in public. They'd go do what they needed to do and get home. Go through the drive-through, go home, right? No lingering in public. They didn't talk to anybody. So there's no fucking miracles going to happen if you don't talk to anybody. And I had to teach them how to test for interest, how to have social skills, how to engage with people, how to get conversations started, how to know if people have interest in having a conversation with you, and then walk through the open doors. That's the adventure. That's the unknown. That's the goodies, right? That's where the good stuff happens. And then we just repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. That was what I'm now calling the Dating Essentials for Men Hero's Journey. So I want to pull this together with that book that I mentioned by Sebastian Junger on freedom. It's a good read. I mean, at times it gets a little bit meandering, but the basic storyline, it takes place, I guess, actually over several months in a few different segments. But it's 4 to 5 guys, and I guess some of those guys changed during different segments. But what was in common was Sebastian and his dog. And then typically 3, 4, 5 other people walking with him, just walking across the eastern U.S., often on train tracks and philosophizing, having experiences, just learning what it means to just walk for long periods of time, like our ancestors did. Now, I loved a lot about that book, but the part that really struck me was how often Younger tells a story that as they're walking, this 3 or 4 or 5 guys and the dog, really no real destination, but they're just walking a trail that our ancestors had walked. Is that many places they'd go, young men, boys, men would like be watching them, checking them out when they kind of pass through little towns and cities and barrios. And he says, how many times teenagers, men, came and said, "What are you guys doing? What are you about?" I said, "We're just on a walkabout. We're just out walking." And he said repeatedly, I don't know why, but this gives me chills. Repeatedly, men and young men, boys would say, "Take me with you. Can I go with you?" They wanted to fall into that group of men, that tribe. And of course, they got a dog. You got to have a dog in the tribe, right? They wanted to leave. There's that call of the wild. There's that craving to be free, to get out with brothers and tribe and go have this adventure, go have this hero's journey. Even if we don't know that's in us, it's in us. When we see free men, we want to live like them. And of course, that looks different for everybody. And that's again why we need mentors and examples to go live this free life. Okay, I want to pull this together into 3 points of how to live our own hero's journey, how to go on our own walkabout, how to get out of this house arrest. Number one, make the time for it. I mean, these are the 3 things I have to apply. One, make the time. I've got to reduce my time demands. I got to reduce what's on my calendar. I've got to buy back my time. I got to get comfortable having free time. I got to get comfortable goofing off, comfortable just reading a book for sure pleasure, comfortable watching TV, watching a baseball game, getting out of my house, going and having a nice meal. I am pretty comfortable with the travel. So again, that's where I do a lot of my freedom work. But we got to make the time for it. It's not just going to happen. So, but then number two, I kind of got ahead of myself. We do got to get out of the house. Go have a walkabout. Go spend time with people. Go hang out in a coffee shop. Go to public places. Go be around people and have conversations. And then number three, get curious. Say yes to the open doors. Walk through them. Make time for your hero's journey. Get out of the house. It ain't going to happen at home. And then get curious and say yes to the doors that open up in front of you. If anybody's been around for very long has probably heard my stories of, when I moved into this house, since that's part of this lesson and got married, I realized I just did not have good guy friends in my life. Back when I was single, lived in even a different part of town here in Vallarta, I had a lot of, it's a very gay part of town, so I had a lot of good gay guy friends and, a lot of eating out and just hanging out with friends casually. And then bought the house and moved kind of to the suburbs, and really didn't have a lot of connection with those guys anymore. And so I joined a men's program and I really went to work on building my community of men. And I know that men's program, we had three in-person intensives in the year. There were about 30, 35 of us in the program. A few had been in the year before. And we had a Facebook thread that we had for connecting with each other. And I've never loved Facebook, but I got busy, I got active, I was reaching out, connecting, I was posting. And I remember at the very first intensive, um, at the very beginning of it, I just got up. My coach kind of supported me. I said, guys, fucking start posting on Facebook. I'm here to make connection with men. That's why I'm here. And I was in that program for 5+ years. COVID kind of elongated a couple of the years. And as I've said now, I was in Austin, Texas, 3 weeks ago. Monday night, I went out with a group of guys in entrepreneurs that are part of an entrepreneur group I've just joined. Wednesday night, I went to a friend's house that I met at an Inspiration Nation meet and greet, who just loves my book. And every time I go to Austin, so this is the third time, he invites me and a bunch of men he knows over to his house for dinner to meet me. Friday night, I had dinner with about 15 of guys I met through this men's program I've been in. Now, in almost every one of these situations, I'm the instigator. I'm the one that stays in touch with people. I'm the one that says, let's jump on Zoom. I'm the one setting up signal threads. I'm the one that started an annual writers retreat in my home that now we've met 5, 6 times at my home. I'm the one that is now planning a camping trip for my men's group that I set up the men's group I set up 7 years ago, that all seven of us have been there for 7 years. I'm planning the camping trip this summer. So yeah, I'm busting my butt. But you know what? I went 8 years ago with maybe one and a half good guy friends to now easily 25 to 50 people in my life, 25, 50 guys I could call up and they'd get on an airplane and fly down here if I needed them to. These men come to visit me. I go visit them when I travel. I've just worked at it. I've just worked at it. And so you're on the right track. So, post on the timeline. Go, drop in on tribe calls and like this, ask questions like you're doing here. You're getting visible. People are going to see you in the breakout rooms on tribe calls in here. Open up and share with yourself. If you resonate with somebody, follow up just like you're doing. So I guess the point I'm making is probably treat it like a hero's journey. It's not going to be you just give a wave to 3 or 4 guys and you have an instant band of brothers. I think you're going to have to go through the fire. You're going to have to keep putting the effort. You're going to have to, continue. And that's how I'm approaching it. I don't think I'll ever get done being the instigator for my tribe of men. And I'm okay with that. I just accepted. And, other guys do reach out. Other guys do plan things. Other guys do, like this one friend I've met in Austin. He always plans stuff. He gets in touch with me. And so just keep being the instigator and then just keep doing more and just keep it up. I know men will say, because, one of the most powerful things I ever heard David Data say this 15 years ago at a workshop. And he said, choose a woman who chooses you. And I thought, damn, because not long before that, I was single at that time, but I'd spent 14 years in a marriage to my second wife who basically on our honeymoon quit choosing me. You guys have all heard the story. She said, "Aren't you glad now that we're married, we don't have to pretend to like sex?" She basically said, "I'm done choosing you." I kept trying to get her to choose me, to just treat me well, be decent, show up, have sex for 14 years. Then when I got out there in the dating world, after the divorce, I'd made a commitment. I was going to say yes to every open door of opportunity, every open door of sexual opportunity. Any woman, wanted me to, wanted me to fuck her, wanted to get naked with me, whatever. I said yes. I said yes. And what I started realizing is once I got this yes mentality about me, and I was practicing what I already said on this call, I was getting out of the house, expanding my route, lingering in public, testing for interest, and I started noticing how many women were noticing me. And I realized I didn't have to chase anybody. I didn't have to try to get a woman to be interested in me because I'd spent 14 years trying to get a woman I was married to be interested in me. And so I heard David Data say that, choose a woman who chooses you. I thought that's what I've been doing. I call that walking through the open doors rather than pounding on the closed doors. Yeah, you can pound on closed doors. You can get coaches that will teach you how to do that. You can even use what I teach to do it. You can create a lot of polarity, a lot of PET. You can be really persistent, and sometimes the door might open. But you know what? Kind of the way I put it is that she's got to show up wet. I don't want to work that fucking hard to get a woman in the mood to want to be with me, to want to go out with me, to want to get naked with me. Like I said, I spent 14 years doing that in a marriage. So I thought that was enough. And so since my ex-wife, I've not tried to get a woman to go out with me, to like me, to get naked with me. They've just wanted to. Now, in that midst, I get the fear that a lot of men have. Well, the women that choose me are older, or they're chubbier, or they're not exactly what I want, or they're this or they're that. But when I made that decision to say yes to every sexual opportunity, and I was out there as a social animal, I was on my DEFM hero's journey, right? I walked through a lot of open doors with a lot of hot, sexy, amazing, younger, crazy, fun women. If they're indifferent or unavailable, not noticing you, move on. Don't worry about it. The ones that are paying attention to you, they're the ones that want to rock your world. They're the ones who already think you're great. They're the ones already showing up wet. They're the ones that you need to say yes to.